Happy Thursday, YouTube. Happy Thursday, everyone. And on tonight's edition, I'd like to ask the question, is TV dead? Or at least, is TV dying? Now, a few weeks ago, over here in the UK, BBC closed down the channel BBC Three, but it will continue as an online-only channel, which will save the BBC millions. But why did this happen? Why did it come to that? And BBC makes some great shows. They made Mongrels, one of the funniest comedies ever. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. But of course, BBC Three was the youth channel. BBC Four, very intellectual, very artsy. That's where you're going to get your 2-hour documentary about Ingmar Bergman, basically. You'd think that wouldn't pull an audience. But the thing is, that pulls an audience, and it pulls mainly an older audience. BBC Three, a lot of music, a lot of young person's comedy, and that young audience if they do watch TV, they watch TV, they don't watch TV on their TVs. I know a family who do watch TV, but they basically have their soap operas on in the background, and they're each member, mum, dad, the kids, except maybe the very youngest kid, they're on some kind of electronic device, a phone, laptop, computer.
iPad.
And the iPad, it could, yeah. And basically, which I find, and I might literally simultaneously, they might be Facebooking and eating and half paying attention to a soap opera. I don't know how typical that is of a modern British family. And one
That's
of the
usually
things
my family usually do that.
There you go.
They're usually on an iPad or a phone or something as they watch.
This is it. Even if, admittedly, sometimes you Facebook about the TV show you're watching. That happens in Doctor Who fandom. There's loads of... When a new Doctor Who episode is on for the first time, there's lots of OMG, epic, God, Cokie, when the Statue of Liberty was a weeping angel. OMG, epic, and it's all in your Facebook feed. But then later on you think, hang on, does that make sense? But anyway, and spoilers for some people, apologies. I remember this theory, and I've never actually studied anthropology or psychology. Well, I've studied a bit of psychology. But this theory that the actual reason why you get families around a television set is that it reminds us of when we'd live in a cave and have a fire, and we'd all sit around the fire. And you probably would find yourself, because fire is quite when I've been in houses with open fires, and when I've been camping, a fire is a very hypnotizing thing to look into. People in history would have believed that they saw things in the fire, like premonitions. But basically, though, it's the source of light, it's the source of warmth for your family unit or whatever collective you're living in. So you're huddled together in the cave, and Cokie will immediately be thinking of the tribe of Gum in Doctor Who. But so what does it say about us then, the modern human being? That we're not so much sitting around the fire or sitting around the television. I talk to internet people more than I talk to members of my own family, just as I don't watch TV on TV. It's like Christmas Day is when I actually watch TV with family members. And most of the time, I'm corporeally on my own, apart from the cat. Makes me sound a bit sad, but we're internet junkies now, and most of our communication is like this. And you can watch a movie or a TV show over Skype with a friend, but you're not gathered around the fire replacement. Anyway, I'm going to go in reverse order and open with Cokie. Your thoughts?
Well, I suppose, first of all, it's always nice to join you on Thursdays, which it is. Thursday, that is. But I think that my being the token Latino here, I just highlight that there are some cultural differences when it comes to TV usage across cultures. In Latin America, and, I actually heard that there were studies, and this is why they're opting to dub a lot of shows as opposed to just having Spanish subtitles. in Latin America, the norm is to treat television more as if it were a radio. That is to say, keep the TV on while you're like washing the dishes or cleaning up, or taking a nap or whatever. Occasionally glancing over, when you want to see like the action scenes or whatever. But mostly sort of listening to stuff. And I notice I do that a lot as well. Like I might have a YouTube video playing, and I might just close my eyes and listen to them speaking. And television is a much more ambient thing, I guess, for a lot of Latinos. Though I do think you do see that in other cultures as well, because I noticed that sometimes they might show an American program where, a man's watching TV, or the TV's on while the man is sleeping, and then they turn off the TV. Like, who did that? It's like, I was watching that. It's sort of like an ambient thing for a lot of people. Why did I bring that up? Well, yeah, so the Fire Association, that's not a universal thing, I guess. But I think it is a really interesting point, because television is treated as a much more, I guess, social in the conventional sense activity than internet is. Because geography isn't a factor on the internet. I mean, it is in terms of time zones and whatnot, but, I would say the internet is quite social. I mean, we're having a bunch of conversations with people from other parts of the world, and we oftentimes synchronize videos together to watch them together. But it's taking a completely new form, which, it's interesting how, I guess, the campfire, not only is it now an artificial light, but it's not even a light in a fixed geographic location, but rather a shared experience. And other people, you mentioned like people talking about Doctor Who or whatever when it's happening live. Yeah. So it's like you're not even directly interacting with these people, but everyone's sharing this experience and looking at the shared experience at the same time, speaking and socializing about something that's happening at that moment. Which, it's interesting how culture is developing.
Yeah, and Doctor Who is a very good example, of course, because that was the reason that the anniversary special had to be simulcast, even though it was in cinemas as well. So across homes and cinemas throughout something like 200 countries globally, because it's like the most syndicated show, isn't it? They all had to see it. Doctor Who fans across the globe all had to see it at once, because otherwise people will be tweeting, people will be putting things in their status update, and spoilers, even though this meant, 200 countries across the world, you're going to be watching Doctor Who in so many different time zones, including being in the cinema. It could be a ridiculous time of day for you. And technically, if you were in Australia or New Zealand, it wasn't even the correct date for the anniversary, of course. But you've got to do it, because everyone's going to tweet, everyone's going to Facebook and Tumblr and whatever. And literally millions of people doing that. I'm surprised that it didn't. I'm surprised the internet didn't crash under the weight of the fangasms. But another point there, I want to say something anecdotal, because you say that you sleep when you have a video on sometimes, which I do sometimes because I have anxiety issues. I find like a talking book or a talk show. It's how I originally got into podcasts, actually. Podcasts are good when you're trying to sleep, when you're trying to wake up, which takes me hours to do because of my condition. And sometimes just have something on in the background when I'm doing stuff. Back in my television days, I did a really perverse thing. I'd have to look for a TV show I liked with several episodes coming up at once. Like maybe on Paramount Comedy there was going to be like 3 or 4 episodes of King of Queens in a row. I'd have seen those episodes of King of Queens before, maybe multiple times. But it's like, for comfort, I'm finding a TV show I like so that I can fall asleep to it. It's like, I can't fall asleep to any old shit. I want to be asleep during some good television that I like. It's like the equivalent of sort of sucking your thumb or something. But anyway, enough anecdotal stuff. And Gunderson, your take.
I'm not sure if I really have anything to say other than to build on what anyone else has said so far, I suppose, basically more and more stuff the internet is slowly, it seems the internet is slowly replacing the telly as a medium of entertainment. I guess largely because it's something you can actually interact with as opposed to just often in real time, instead of just something that's imposed upon you when you just have to put up with it.
Yeah, it's everything. It's TV, it's games, it's communication. You can watch pretty much anything with somebody from pretty much anywhere in the world. I mean, of course, you're a teenager, and there won't have been a time where you probably can't remember a time when there wasn't an internet.
I have very little memory of it, at least.
Yeah, and there would have been an internet, it just wouldn't have been a widely used thing. Yeah, I mean, the internet began becoming popular very shortly after I left school, and it was an oddity. It was, we didn't have, they brought in internet access into the IT room at my school the year after I left. And internet cafes where you and your mate would go and go into a Yahoo chat room, and having an email account was a weird new thing. Whatever happened to Yahoo chat rooms? That was the first thing I ever did on the internet. It was so weird. It was like I was talking to people, and a friend of mine who just did not understand the internet at that point asked, "Are these people who were paid to talk to you?" It's like what? Yes, you go into a Yahoo chat room. You're the one who's there just because you're there. Everybody else is paid to talk to random people on the. Okay, and I mean it's. Well, do you think you've seen a massive evolution, or a significant amount of evolution of the internet in, let's say, the past, since around the turn of the millennium, say? Hello?
Oh, me.
Yeah.
Has there been a massive evolution in how the internet is? I'm guessing video calling like this wasn't a thing at the time.
Yeah, there's that, yeah.
And also, I can't really think of anything else other than that.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Watching something simultaneously with somebody over Skype is a concept I've only had for the past 2 or 3 years. That's quite weird. And the way that you go 3, 2, 1, play, that concept. But that is cool, though, because if you're like a fan of something really niche, like James loves East Asian cinema, which is pretty still pretty niche in the West at the moment, or if I didn't live somewhere with other Doctor Who fans and societies and what have you, if I find anyone, I'm in a call with a Doctor Who fan in Puerto Rico, growing up in the 80s. I don't think I ever thought I'd know somebody from Puerto Rico or somebody from Sweden, unless I did actually physically travel there. London's a pretty cosmopolitan place, and a lot of students come here for their gap years and stuff, but still. So I suppose, but mainly Europeans, though. All right, I've known a few Swedish people, but yeah, it's just it's not a world that I predicted that we'd have like gadgets. The idea that the mobile phone would end up also having other things. I think intuitively I anticipated that, but most of this kind of stuff, definitely not. And Pinge, your thoughts?
The first thing is we talk about the TV. I have it as a lamp. That's the only thing. I have it on, and it's a lamp, and I see something blurred by. So, but the fun thing when the TV, I have worked with the old people and so on, and they talked with me when the TV come to Sweden, and one family in the whole building bought a TV, and they went to all their other friends in their house, and then we have a TV, and then they come at night and they look at this little TV that was like 2-inch wide or something, and they sat all around that TV and they looked at the test picture and thought that was so fantastic funny, and these older people that talked about, they talked about it. See, I don't think they even could imagine that we should sit here and talk about TV going away or something. It wasn't in their world. And also the fun part, we talk about this sitting in a Skype call and so on. When I was like, say 14 or something years old, there was something in Swedish we called something like hotlines or something. It was abandoned telephone numbers that you could call till, and on that abandoned number there were a lot of people talk on that abandoned number. So that was the most fun we could do to talk with different people that we haven't met. We should call to that abandoned number. So this is Skype is the next step of that. No, but I think TV will end up like a place where we might have put our computer and so on, because the net is the computer and the net is where we are, because we can interact more, and it's not the interaction before was that the whole building sat in front of the only telly there, so they got interaction because of that, and now we sit alone in our own homes and watch one TV is boring, so it's more interaction on the net, so that's why TV will float away or something.
I'm wondering if part of because the internet's a huge factor in television becoming obsolete, but another thing is the way we watch movies, because there are so many films now that are best seen. You kind of got to see them on the big screen. The review of Godzilla I saw. No, if you don't see Godzilla on the big screen, there is no point, is basically what the reviewer said. And a lot of films are 3D. And unless you're really going to fork out for a massive TV that takes up an entire wall of your flat with the 3D, and obviously I know you can get 3D Blu-rays, and with the proper 3D glasses, not the shitty 3D. Yeah. So it is basically the cinematic experience. But even then, that doesn't compare with IMAX. When I saw Avatar at the IMAX, I'd never been to the IMAX before. It was midnight somewhere in central London, and I walked into the cinema. Oh God, yeah, the best way to enjoy cinema: midnight, central London, one joint. And that's how I saw Alice in Wonderland as well, but that was in Leicester Square, which doesn't have an IMAX. The IMAX, I walked in, and there was nothing but screen. There were no corners. There were no edges. The screen, it was like looking for the horizon. The screen was the world. And seeing Avatar on a screen that big, in 3D. And then, of course, it was kind of like, it's never going to be the same watching it on TV, or for that matter, on the internet. And it's kind of like, so there's still a reason to go to the movies, even though in London you're going to pay at least £12.50. You might pay 15 quid. But, mind you, though, I suppose that is about the same as going to the theatre in London if you get the cheapest theatre ticket. When I say theatre, as in stage theatre. So that is another thing, actually, that really the television doesn't give you the movie experience. If you're not watching stuff online, you want to see the big blockbusters where they're meant to be seen. That's always been true to a degree, but in this instance, I think it's more true than ever. So would you agree with that, Koki, that nowadays pretty much there are more and more films that have to be seen in the cinema?
Oh, yeah. Film, where technology has hurt television, it's helped film loads and loads. I mean, I recently saw Godzilla in film, and with the sound and the visuals, it's true. It's not the same experience that if I saw it on television. Avatar is another great example. I mean, I guess the thing is that television is having difficulty finding its proper niche. I mean, like I've mentioned, in Latin America, and also for me personally, I've always kind of seen it as sort of a background thing. I've even turned on the television to read a book, which sounds nonsensical to a lot of people, but it was the most natural thing in the world for me. But I would say that television is not going to die without a fight. And I guess this is something to bring up, particularly in the United States. Television is prepared to fight dirty. A lot of the internet providers, at least in the United States, I don't know how it is in the UK, are also internet service providers. And that's why the net neutrality thing is coming up pretty regularly. There was a case, I think Comcast was the internet service provider, and they basically deliberately made Netflix slower. And Netflix had to pay them extra to keep that going. But I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing more hostile actions by cable companies against the internet to try to make the internet less of a viewing experience so that people would go back to television.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely is something. I mean, do you think that it might be responsible for, and may to some extent already have been at least partially responsible for, a dumbing down of television, because they're desperate, craving for ratings? We've got to have a reality TV show where people dressed as nuns have sex with dogs, because that's the next step in reality television, because that'll get ratings. So they stop bothering risking having anything that's actually got merit and therefore might not be watched.
I would say that the internet may have helped television in regards to the dramas that they do have going. And first of all, I'd say nuns having sex with dogs, the internet has them beat in that department by far, really. But I'm thinking like a series like Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad. One of the reasons why they can afford to have such ongoing stories as opposed to the more episodic shows of the past, now they have more shows where one episode builds upon another, is because they're doing this in confidence that someone could catch up, on the internet and then watch the next episode, instead of, having to start with whatever episode is airing on television, not knowing what happened before. Now they don't have to do the recap to make sure it's accessible for anyone to get into the show at any time, because now there's the internet and people can catch up.
Yeah.
And I also think TV is in the beginning of something else. It's always some kind of evolution in the media and so on. So it's like, sometimes it feels like TV are like they are trying, wait a minute, where is the role we have? And then they find the role, and then we see it as you said in the longer series and so on. They have found, this working, we can still have it on TV and we can still draw an audience if you do like this. So sometimes I feel like it is like finding an audience, finding a way to interact with all the other media. So I don't think TV will end. It's more like finding a new way to do new things or old things, but in a better way.
Hey, is Ulog a thing in the Ulog Chef? Is that a thing in the UK?
What? Sorry, say again?
Okay, it's not really a show, but at least, I don't know if it's WB, I forget which channel does it, but basically, for Christmas time, one channel basically dedicates all of its airtime to having a log burning in a fire with Christmas carols playing. Mm-hmm. So it's basically, it's basically very ambient. It's not a television show. It's a more literal manifestation of gathering around the campfire with music, very ambient. Because, that's something that I could definitely turn on the television and read a book to,
New niche again.
Slightly makes me think of the Scenery Channel, which was literally just sweep shots of the countryside and
Yeah, I've got something but on another place I had on some Scenery Channel. It was like, this is nice.
I was told there's nothing like dropping an E and just watching the History Channel for many, many hours.
That sounds awesome. NASA also has a channel where they just show the Earth constantly, and they play different music and whatnot. So, ambient television is also...
Major Tom.
Major Tom? What?
The David Bowie song.
Oh, yeah, right, okay. I'm also going to phone, because you mentioned Breaking Bad there. But of course, it was a bit strange that you listed that one, because Breaking Bad was a TV show made for the internet, as was the remake of House of Cards. So they're making shows with the express intention of just putting them up on Netflix or wherever. So it's already begun. They're TV shows that aren't made for broadcast on television. They exist. And that'll now be true of BBC Three. The British now have an entire station that will be like Breaking Bad. It's TV just for the internet.
Now I'm thinking about Arrested Development, that the show stopped for a while, but then they decided to another season that was Netflix exclusive.
There's also a BBC show called Ripper Street, which the BBC cancelled for some reason. This was BBC One, I think. Definitely BBC One. That's been brought back by... it's going to be made for an internet audience. I don't know if it's Netflix bought it and are making it, or is it even Amazon are making it? It's something like that. They've managed to get like the director, the writers, the cast. They've bought everything. They've got it. So it'll come back because they know there's a market for something. The BBC acts, even though it was popular. But then in an age when we read our books on the internet, it's not that surprising that we'd watch our TV on the internet, and it's weird, and that is also comforting to remember, because the BBC sometimes act stuff for no reason. So if they were ever batshit crazy enough to axe Doctor Who, you bet your ass it would be... I just said ass instead of ass. You bet your ass it would be bought up by someone just to be just an internet show. And that's the future. Okay, so... sorry, Pinge?
It's okay.
You're just agreeing. Okay, I'll go around and get closing thoughts and goodbyes. So, Koki?
I'm just wondering what's going to happen in this epic clash, this legal battle between TV and internet. But objectively, internet is superior, and if left to market forces, will annihilate television. May the hamster of prosperity make it so.
I feel sad for television. It's been a big thing for so long. And Gunderson?
Yeah, we eventually television will probably become like riding around police. It'll be like the equivalent of for us of riding around on horses. It'll just become archaic and unnecessary.
I feel so old now. I'm a child of the television. In the words of Homer Simpson, was it teacher, mother, secret lover? And good night from Pinge.
Yeah, TV is dead, but I won't going to use my telly like movies with fish tanks on.
And on that bombshell, it's good night from me.